Hey everyone, how's it going? Hope everyone's doing super awesome today. Welcome to Zahadka. My name is Valentina, and today I'll be showing you how I made this little rag quilt, like a little baby one. And then I made a second one following my tutorial, but modifying it a little bit different. But I'll show you how I made this one, and I did the front and the back the same on this one. On the second one, I did the back a little bit different than I did the front, and it is thinner. I like this one for a quilt better because I made it thinner. Here I used more stuffing and it's thicker, and I did the little cuts differently. But nonetheless, it's got a little ruffle around it, and I did enjoy making it. It was a pain at some points, but if you want to see how I made this, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, and let's get to sewing! So the first thing I did is chose the patterns of fabric that I'm going to use, and I ended up going with 6. You can do more or less, it's up to you. And I cut them out for 6" by 6" squares, and then I drew it all out to see how I would place them, and then I proceeded to cut all of them out, and I did 8 squares by 6 squares to get the measurements I wanted, plus a lace little trim. And you choose whatever size you want. It's just whatever size. This is the size that I needed, and it ended up being a total of 48 squares, but I needed to cut 96 of each because I was doing the front and the back the same. So that was the first long part, just cutting all those squares, and then I cut the batting, and I did 2 layers of batting in this first version, and then I did only 1 layer of batting in the second version. I would stick with 1 layer of the cotton batting, but it's up to you with the rag quilt. If you do 2 layers, what I found out is that those parts where they intersect, it's very thick and kind of pointy. And then right here, I'm just layering everything up, the batting in between the top and the bottom piece. And then I lay it out all out however I want them to be, like the pattern, how I want the pattern to lay. And then I also drew X marks on each square on the front side wherever I'm going to be sewing the quilted X. So as you can see there, I just did that with a heat erasable pen. And then I proceeded to sew all of the X's first. After I sewed the 48 X's on the squares, on all the squares, I started putting them together, and I did the horizontal lines first, and I'm just sewing them together like this. And how you know to be sewing to make sure that you don't have the seam showing. So basically you want to do it not pretty side to not pretty side, basically back to back, so you get that seam in the front that you'll be cutting up for fringe. And I just did that for every line, and then I cut the fringe on every line. This was the most tedious part, is just cutting all that little fringe. I did switch to little scissors, and it was a lot easier with the little scissors than with the big scissors. Also, with the 2 layers, this was a lot harder to cut, and I also on this one had the batting in the cutting area. And then you saw already, this is the quilt already put together. I did miss recording the part of where I put together the vertical lines, but after I had all the horizontal lines sewn and cut, I started to sew the vertical lines to each other and the same way, backside to backside, to make sure that seam is showing on the front. And then you cut all the vertical lines after that. And then I cut off all the extra stuff on the sides after, just making sure everything's nice and straight because I am putting a little lace trim on it. And I wasn't sure how I'm gonna do that, but all I ended up doing for the lace trim is just sewing it on top and then folding it back. So you'll see me sew it on, and then I just iron it back and sew it, make a top stitch so it doesn't like flip back over. So I just place it's like the little ribbon of the lace type trim that I have, and then I just sew it all around, attaching it like that to the front. Also, after sewing the seam on, I completed it off by cutting the fringe on the ends of all around the blanket with the fabric of the seam, and that's how then I like folded it back and did a top stitch on the lace, and it just ended up looking perfect, and I did really like it. But then, as I mentioned, I proceeded to do a second one while I put this one in the wash to get all the extra stuff off. You want to make sure to wash it once or even twice. And then this is what it looked like after. And that's it. And I did just want to say a big thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If it was useful, please consider liking, subscribing, sharing, and all that good stuff that helps me out. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And they do say that this is one of the best quilts to start with because there's a lot of leeway and you don't have to be perfect. I ended up finding the clip of where I sew the other lines together, not just the single squares, but the horizontal lines that I made after finishing editing everything. So I just decided to insert it right here at the end. Hope you don't mind. And again, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Bye.